Have you ever opened your AWS bill and just felt that sinking feeling, that wave of panic? If you have, you are definitely not alone. That feeling of spiraling cloud costs is a super common pain point for companies big and small. But what if you could turn that panic into total control? Well, that's exactly what we're going to cover. We'll walk through a practical guide to get a handle on your AWS spending and turn that cloud bill from a source of stress into a measure of just how efficient you are. And make no mistake, the stakes can be incredibly high. Just look at this quote from a startup founder over on Hacker News. Their AWS bill wasn't just some line item on a spreadsheet. It was an existential threat. It was eating up 80% of their revenue and literally pushing them to the brink. That's the scary reality for a lot of folks who don't have a strategy in place. It just goes to show you how quickly a powerful tool can become a massive liability if you're not paying attention. But here's the good news. And it's really good news. It is absolutely possible to turn this ship around, and the results can be just dramatic. One company, just by fixing a single little inefficiency in how their services were talking to each other, slashed their AWS costs by a staggering 95%. Yeah, you heard that right, 95%. This proves that with the right game plan, huge savings are totally achievable, and you don't even have to sacrifice performance. So how do we get there? Here's our roadmap. First, we're going to figure out how to actually understand your bill. Then we'll go hunting for the low-hanging fruit, the quick wins. After that, we'll dive into optimizing your core services, look at how to get deeper savings with commitments, and finally, talk about how to make this a continuous, ongoing journey. Let's get started. Okay, first things first. Our journey has to start with getting visibility. You just can't fix what you can't see, right? Before you can make any smart decisions, you've got to have a crystal clear picture of where all that money is actually going. Think of this as the diagnostic phase, and trust me, it's non-negotiable. The cool thing is, AWS gives you the tools for this right out of the box. So step one, you're going to fire up AWS Cost Explorer. It turns your bill into these easy-to-read graphs. That's going to help you spot which services, like EC2 or S3, are your biggest spenders. From there, you can dig in even deeper by filtering everything with resource tags. And that right there brings us to probably the most important point in this whole section. Seriously, if you remember one thing, let it be this. Tag everything. Having a consistent tagging strategy, labeling your resources by project or by team or by environment is the absolute key to unlocking that detailed cost visibility. Without it, you're just flying blind. You have no idea which features or teams are racking up the charges. Okay, so now that we can actually see where the money's going, it's time for triage. This phase is all about finding and just eliminating the obvious waste. We're looking for those quick wins that can give you immediate, significant cost reductions, usually with very little effort. It's time to stop the bleeding. So most AWS accounts, over time, they collect these zombie resources. We're talking about unattached EBS volumes. They're basically digital hard drives just sitting there collecting dust and fees. Or old, obsolete machine images you made once and forgot about. It's not crazy for this kind of junk to account for 10, maybe 15% of a company's entire bill. The good news? Tools like AWS Trusted Advisor are built to hunt this stuff down for you, so it's a super easy place to start. Next up are the things you actually need, but not 24/7. The biggest offender here is almost always your non-production environments, for development and testing that are left running all day, all night. Just by scheduling these to turn off on nights and weekends, you could slash their costs by almost 70%. And you can automate this super easily with tools like the AWS Instance Scheduler. And here's a sneaky one that gets a lot of people, your CloudWatch logs. By default, they're stored forever. Now, if you've got a chatty application, this can turn into a huge expense really quickly, and you're paying for data that has zero value after a few weeks. And the fix? It's so simple. You just go to your log groups and set a retention policy, say 30 days. It's a set it and forget it kind of fix that can save you a surprising amount of cash. All right, we've cleaned up all the obvious waste. Now it's time to optimize the resources we actually use every single day. This is all about working smarter, not harder, making intelligent little tweaks to your core services to get way more performance for every dollar you spend. This analogy just nails the whole concept of right-sizing. It's so common for developers to over-provision resources just in case. But really, it's like paying for a minibus when you only need a two-seater. There are tools like AWS Compute Optimizer that'll actually analyze your usage patterns and give you specific recommendations to downsize instances that are barely being used, making sure you only pay for what you actually need. Here's another really powerful optimization: modernizing your compute. AWS has its own processors called Graviton,
and they're based on the same ARM architecture that's in your smartphone. They're incredibly power efficient, and that efficiency translates directly to better price performance. We're talking around 20% better for a lot of workloads compared to the old-school x86 chips. If your app is compatible, switching to Graviton is a pretty direct path to lower cost. And we can't forget about storage. So many people just leave all their data in S3 standard by default, which happens to be the most expensive tier. But as you can see, AWS has a whole menu of options for different access patterns. The easiest win here is S3 intelligent tiering. You literally just flip a switch on your bucket, and AWS will automatically move your data to the most cost-effective tier based on how often you're using it. It saves you money with zero effort on your part. It's a no-brainer. All right, we've optimized what we use day to day. Now it's time to unlock the really deep discounts that AWS offers by, well, playing the long game. If you've got predictable, steady workloads, you can get massive savings just by making a commitment to AWS. First up, let's talk about spot instances. This is where you can use Amazon's spare, unused compute capacity for savings of up to 90%. Now, what's the catch? The catch is that AWS can take that instance back with just a 2-minute warning. So this makes them perfect for any workload that can be interrupted and restarted. Think big data analysis or a CI/CD pipeline, but a terrible choice for something like your main web server. Now, for your stable core workloads, you've got two main options. There's the older model, reserved instances, which locks you into a specific instance type in a specific region. But the more modern, and frankly much more flexible option, is savings plans. With these, you just commit to spending a certain amount per hour, like say $10 an hour, and that discount automatically applies to any instance family, size, or region. That flexibility makes savings plans the go-to choice for most people these days. This chart really puts it all into perspective. On the left, you've got your baseline on-demand pricing. That's full price. Move one to the right, and you see how savings plans can knock that cost down significantly for your predictable stuff. And then for your fault-tolerant tasks, you layer in spot instances, and boom, the cost is just a fraction of the original. The big takeaway here is that a blended strategy, using the right tool for the right job, is how you really maximize your savings. And finally, let's talk about how to make all this stick. Because cost optimization isn't a one-and-done project. It's a continuous cultural practice. People call it FinOps, which is really just a fancy way of saying you're bringing financial accountability to your cloud spending. It's a mindset that needs to be part of the DNA of your engineering and finance teams. Building this kind of culture really boils down to a few key ideas. You need to be monitoring your costs all the time, not just once a quarter. You've got to right-size relentlessly as your workloads change. Automate everything you possibly can, from cleanup to scheduling. And this is a big one. Report and allocate those costs back to the teams that are actually spending the money, and educate everyone on the financial impact of their decisions. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Is your cloud bill just a cost center, or is it a measure of your efficiency? By adopting these strategies, you can fundamentally change your relationship with that bill. It stops being this dreaded, unpredictable expense, and it becomes a key metric, a reflection of just how efficiently you're building and running your applications in the cloud.